What are you doing, minimize? There we go. Okay, everything. I think everything's good. All right. Let me see. Where the hell is this? Yeah, this should be low enough, right, guys? Like, you guys can hear this, but it's not like overpowering or anything. I hope so, at least. Okay, cool. Hey, Nick, good to see you in the chat. Good to see you in the chat. All right, we are going to be reviewing The Shattering today. I was thinking of also watching a video, but I watched a little bit of it earlier, and I was like, not I kind of lost interest. Which is a shame. It would have been nice to be able to listen to something. Oh, wait. I forgot to post the link on the Twitters. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm losing it, chat. I'm losing it. I'm losing my stuff. All right, let's see. Don't mind me. Just reviewing. Viewing an Elden Ring thesis while playing. While saving for card games, I guess. Well, oh, no, we'll just say while playing some TC. Wait, does it? Yeah, TC. I guess it's technically still a TCG, right? While playing some TCG. All right. Get in here. There you go. All right, perfect. Woo. There we go. All right. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. All right. I hope everyone is doing so well. Let me make sure that all this is working because I what? Huh? How does that work? All right, let's just do this real quick. There we go. Oh, there's another update? Okay, it's a small one though. Okay. You touch base with Acer on the DS3 video? No, we have to get on top of that. Because I have not been able to schedule something with him for that. So I'll have to figure how that's going to work. I want to do it soonish because I forget if Acer did this already, but he was telling me he was thinking of maybe making it where he would essentially put what's the word? Basically, the idea was that he was going to basically put like the original that he thought was kind of screwed up on his like Patreon or whatever. So I feel like oh right, because they did another emergency. Okay. Okay. How many packs do we have? A 10 pack yet? No, we're close though. We'll be doing this then in the background. Why that? Hey, Nobre, good to see you. Anyway, we're going to be doing this review on The Shattering because I'll be honest, I had a lot of fun working on this one, and it's a lot longer than I was expecting, but I think this first draft is pretty goddamn awful. Like, I am not happy with this first draft. I think it needs a lot of work. So I think we're going to probably be like doing a lot to try to, you know, at least mark this stuff for fixes. I don't think I can do on the fly fixes for a lot of this. I think I'm going to need to think over what I want to do because there's just a lot of this that I just don't think is coming together as much as I would like. Some of it may be that I need to move stuff around to other analyses or something, or that I need to like take stuff from other analyses and move it into here for more context. I don't know. We'll listen to it. We'll listen to it and move it there. I haven't even changed the section titles yet, right? Yeah. I think this is good though. Like we move it there. Like some of these sections drag on a little long. Slightly, but I think it's fine. Yeah, it's not too... This one's a little bit. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this one's gonna be a lot bigger than I was expecting, but I hopefully we'll be able to identify all the problems and I'll figure out how to get it done. Because for next month I want to have that done. And the poll I did on Twitter, not using the new name, ended up being a pretty close to a tie, basically like a virtual tie between this and astrologers, which I'm very happy about that because it's like, yay, astrologers finally actually got like an unambiguous win. This is gonna be one of those that I think we're gonna be working on over the course of next month. By the way, Loki, in your Lois thesis, when you talk about the farm knights using puzzling stone sword, the link you placed on top of the puzzling stone sword leads to Vulcan analysis instead of Shulva. Vulcan? Why would it go to Vulcan? It might just be an accident because, you know, V in Shulva and Vulcan, it could be just a typo and somehow that link came up. I don't remember there ever being a thing for why. I can see like Farum Knight being linked there if I didn't have anything else linking to Vulcan in that analysis. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah, I want you to know that he was profusely sorry about it and apologizing on his 12-hour RE4 stream. He takes pride in his work. I respect that. He's a good egg. Oh, I'm glad that Acer is being open about that. I mean, I thought it was. I mean, he said that it was him, not me, that was like, you know, the problem in terms of the editing and stuff like that. But still, like, I thought what we did was fine when we were recording it or what have you. But I get it. He wants to be a bit of a perfectionist on that and be like, no, I don't want to. Like, I'd probably be the same way if I was in his shoes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to recording that all with him. It's been a long time since we did the original too, so it's not like, oh my god, this is fresh. Like, this is gonna feel like a slog to go over all over again. No, like, I don't even remember all the stuff we were really chatting about there, so it could end up completely different from the first one. Who knows? Anyone on Patreon might be listening to this one and be like, hey, Loki had the opposite opinion last time. Like, I don't know. I don't remember what I thought. Probably because the guy uses Avalon and you copied the wrong link, Lamal. Oh my god, that might be it. Yeah, I might have been wanting to link the Avalon stuff for Volgan. Yeah, you're right, Nobre. You're right. That's so embarrassing. Yeah, I'll did you drop it in the, make sure, can you drop it in the typo thing then, Nobre, so that way I can make sure to add it to the list of stuff. I have a lot of stuff I need to go through there. I was able to add the angel stuff, so that one got added in already, so that's good. But I have a list of stuff I'm still trying to throw in there, trying to make it all within deadlines. All right. Let's get through this with this. Let's get through this. No point belaboring it. I know I'm gonna despise this thing from here to Kingdom Come. So let's see if the volume levels are good for this.
Demigods claim great runes. When Marika shattered the Elden Ring, her government fractured with it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can turn the. There we go. I think I made it as low as I could possibly get it. That way we don't have to worry about lyrics contrasting. Lots of contrarian Loki behavior. Yeah, that's just me. I'm the contrarian. whatever the position is, I'll just take the opposite. Yeah, I'm a rebel like that. Anyway, let's get to this.
When Marika shattered the Elden Ring, her government fractured with it. The Erdtree Kingdom had no line of succession.
By the way, I just love how they keep saying Marika. I don't know why, just something about that. It's like not America, not Marika, not like America. Like, it's just Marika.
Place, so the Eternal Queen's sudden exit left them rudderless. Normally, authority fell to the Elden Lord, but Radagon disappeared along with her. The Two Fingers freely pronounces the decision to imprison Marika for her sin, while her husband goes unmentioned. The royal court may have thus been made aware of what transpired inside the Erdtree without clarification on his involvement. Still, the queen was a traitor to her own golden order, and her consort was either complicit or suspiciously absent. Even the most charitable interpretation of Radagon's disappearance, assisting in imprisoning his wife, affirms that he could no longer serve out his duties as Elden Lord. And whatever the court or public's view, someone needed to fill the gap the king and queen left. With Marika restrained yet retained as god, the obvious solution was to mend the Elden Ring and install someone new as her lord to rule. But that was easier said than done. The shock from the Erdtree's wrath did more than unleash the raw power of gold into the air. All across the lands between, we can loot rune arcs from corpses or chests. Each arc is a fragment of the Elden Ring's lower region, which is foundational as a receptacle for the ring's blessings. Like the golden chalices used in churches, the wide arc collects all power dripping from the runes above it. With those drops of gold, it can express any Elden Rune's power, making it effectively a bridge for channeling the complete ring's effects. As important as that receptacle is, it is still just another of the ring's runes. When Marika was shattering the ring, the broken shards were probably also being collected into the arc. More and more fragments were falling into the cup, more than it could realistically handle. Even still, the rune was the one thing holding that power and, thus the ring, together. And what happens when a sealed vessel is filled beyond capacity? It bursts. The arc buckled under the pressure, releasing all those golden runes at once. That was the explosion of light we see emanate from the tree. Evidently, the runes scattered far and wide across the lands, including the small fragments of the greater rune arc which we crushed for a fraction of its original power. The fact the rune is universally acquired from slain rats reveals just how many owners across Marika's empire these scavengers have nibbled on. Whether it is a far-flung cave or sewer beneath their feet, people have collected a piece before they died. Some of this power also entered the realm of shadow via the Skagitry. Besides the local rats, we can acquire one from a naked corpse tucked around the cliff corner in front of the Fort of Reprimand, likely an escapee retaining proof of Marika forsaking them. Another is held by a noble corpse next to the lift to the specimen storehouse's laboratory, probably a researcher wanting to contribute a rune shard to the Jar Saint experiments. This doesn't affect the arc itself when mending the Elden Ring. What remains is apparently sufficient for our purposes. Still, countless shards of gold were expunged, more significant than the random debris generated with holy arts. However, it wasn't just small fragments of runes, but also great runes which were released into the world. These larger, mostly complete, Elden runes have retained their unique properties along with their shape. Although a rune arc is required to enable their blessings, it is still an immense boost to our human bodies, providing more than just the vitality of gold. Such huge shards hold enough power to restore the Elden Ring with just a handful, making all other runes lost with the shock obsolete. And much like the Skagitry's own bigger fragments from its shock, the great runes are liable to have landed closer to the Erdtree's base. This is relevant since it is Marika's children who ultimately acquire them. Whether on their own or with the help of servants and vassals, certain demigods ended up...
So far, so good. I think this is probably going to be the strongest section in the entire thing because it's mostly just dealing with what we already, like, know about for the most part with, basic background being like, yeah, they have to get the runes and all that stuff. And yeah, the runes have to get out somehow in order to do that, right? So I think this stuff is pretty straightforward and simple to reason. Do I like using the Shadow Tree as the comparison here? Is there a better piece of precedent? I don't think so. Do we have an example where we have something where there's some type of explosion and bigger chunks are quote-unquote heavier and left? Unfortunately, the only thing I can think of is in Dark Souls, because they do the same thing with the Lord Souls, right? The bigger, weightier, quote-unquote, souls remain closer to the first flame than the other souls that, go out and spread and interlace with the world. Also, hey, I am good to see you here. Yeah, I can't think of any other one, so I think I'm just gonna have to live with that being the explanation.
And much like the Skagitry's own bigger fragments from its shock, the great runes are liable to have landed closer to the Erdtree's base. This is relevant since it is Marika's children who ultimately acquire them. Whether on their own or with the help of servants and vassals, certain demigods ended up with a great rune in their possession. This lends itself to all the relevant parties residing in one place at the time, either as long-standing inhabitants or convenient visitors, and Godwin's funeral provides the perfect reason for them to all gather in Lindel. As a result, they were the ones to collect the shards.
Hey,
each owner of a great rune is regarded...
Hey.
Each owner of a great...
There we go. Yeah, the funeral thing... yeah, I don't have death prints written out, but that's probably where I would have the explanation for Godwin, his funeral, and just generally this, because it seems very clear there must be some big event happening at the time for all these demigods to happen to be in the right places at the right time to get their right runes, and these convenient ones, right? So this is the best explanation for it, considering the timing and stuff. Because it doesn't make sense if we're being like, oh yeah, America decides she's going to do this like a year after Godwin is like dead and buried or something like that, right? So like all of this has to be happening in pretty close succession. America shattering, Godwin dying, America shattering the ring, the demigods collecting the runes, Morgott coming in, right? So yeah, so I think this I think most people will kind of go with this on that. I don't think I need to like go through Death Prince first for this. Yeah, I think that'll be fine for now. Yeah, I think what's going to happen is when we get out of this section, though, I'm worried more about the Morgott stuff than anything. Anyway, back to it.
Each owner of a great rune is regarded as a shard bearer, though it is more accurate to call them a ruler of their fragment. If the complete Elden Ring makes one king of the world, then a piece of the ring logically made them partial sovereign over it. Those who came to rule this fractured world consist mainly of Godric, Morgott, Mog, Radon, Runni, Rykard, Milnia, and Miquella. Members of the Golden Lineage all receive the central runes aligned with the ring's main stock. Radagon's children with Renala possess runes oriented to its left, and his children with Marika harbor runes oriented to its right. Since the last kind also include Renala's Rune of the Unborn, we can even view this as the separation between eras, before Radagon, and after Radagon became king. Perhaps for the shard bearers, this clean distribution is coincidence, but it at least suggests that something about those runes
What? Okay. For a second, I thought it was like glitched or something, but no, it's like before Radagon, and after Radagon became king. Yeah, this is this actually I find very interesting, especially with my recent Twitter post about Birth of Radagon and mostly like my questions concerning it and the timing and stuff. Because looking at this and the clear delineation, which let me see if I have the let me pull up the. We have to have an image for this. Yeah, we do. Let me do this because the only great room we're missing here. Yeah, we put that. Where is it? There we go. Yeah. So looking at this here, the only one we're missing here is Ronnie's rune, unfortunately. We also don't have like a fancy graphic for Miquella's rune, but you know, sue me. I did what I could. Yeah. So again, I don't know if there's a deeper significance to this beyond just, oh, ain't it coinkydink that, you know, all of the demigods got clearly defined runes based on seemingly era, because again, you have Renala mixed in here, right? And this is obviously after Radagon became Lord, right? So there seems to be like sort of post Radagon. This is like Radagon as Lord, Radagon as a hero, and then no Radagon period, which makes me wonder if this is trying to tell us that Radagon wasn't a thing until after the birth of the Omens, which should be like the last children of Godric's with Marika, which would be interesting if that is in fact the case. Because then that sort of leans even heavier on the idea that yeah, Radagon was definitely a more recent creation. But again, I'm not sure. This could be like the Mesmer, Melina, Butterfly stuff, where it's like, is this set? It is like, are we looking too deep into it, and or like, you know, on who are the parents or something of like, you know, those four demigods, because there are other similarities they have, or is there something actually really, really deeply meaningful going on here, right? Again, if I had to guess. I had to guess that in universe the actual rune orientations are coincidental, right? Except for maybe these. I can see the idea being that Godefroy / Godric wanted a central rune. The priesthood wanted central runes because the idea that they wanted something that would be a central stability, and they had the golden lineage in the mind for that, right? Like they gravitate toward the symbolism of those kinds of runes, right? And just the perceived importance, whereas these are arguably more ancillary, right? This also is very curious to me because I guess this is the point of putting the rune in an amber egg. I think the idea probably with the amber, now that I think about it, is that it prevents Renala from influencing the rune the way that the other demigods do. Like you see how Godric's is a bit kind of gold buffeted. Morgott's obvious is like more, you know, radiating gold, almost reddish as well. Obviously Moog's is corrupted by blood. Rykard's swallowed and eaten. Radon's ends up burning from the rot. Melania's gets corrupted by the rot, and then we don't really get to see if anything really happened to Miquella's. His just kind of looks like, you know, typical bright rune color, so who knows how it went with his. But if I had to guess, his was probably like a white, an ivory, pure gold type look to it, if I had to hazard. And this one I imagine is supposed to just be like, yeah, let's just keep this looking like your typical golden rune, and it's like encased in amber and stuff, so it kind of has this almost like you know, like this fossilized, deteriorated look to it. But I assume that's kind of the idea, is that it acts as like a way to absorb the power as a medium, but also act as a buffer, so that way Renala's like sorcery powers don't end up influencing it the way we see with the shard bearers and their runes, how they seem to influence theirs. So funny enough, it's probably because of the derogatory term America, derivative of American in Spanish. Ah, I see. Howdy, Xavier. Good to see you. One thing I think you missed in Four Orders Breaky is that Eldon beats Grab Attack actually has a single spear stuck into initially, just like Marika, before the others follow. No, I did. I did factor that in when looking at it. It was because of the wording, Xavier. Let me bring that up because I specifically looked at it, right, and I think I made like one word little tweak to it because I was pretty much happy with how it was. Let me bring this up. Orders breaking. Yeah, when grabbed by the Elden Beast, we find ourselves crucified in a similar manner to Marika, hanging from a rune mark as a multitude of golden spears run us through from all angles, culminating in a collective explosion. In the Eternal Queen's case, she has only the first spear stabbed through her right side, referencing the spear in Christ's crucifixion, right? So this was the point I was trying to make, is that I'm referencing to the fact that, yeah, the first spear, same as when we have with the grab attack, but she only gets that first spear as far as we see, not the others going through her, right? So that was the that's how I put it in there. Mikla's rune is pink like his charm magic. Is it actually the graphic more pinkish? Where is, oh god, I gotta go searching for the stupid thing. Here it is. I found it. I finally found it. Yeah, it does got a little bit of a pinkishness to it. Yeah, Broken Rune doesn't give us a look at the shape though. That's the problem. No, Bray. But yeah, it's definitely, we have something there, and it does definitely got a little bit of a pinkishness to it. Hard to tell that just because it's faded. Like, how does that compare to when they're? Let me make sure you guys can see this one for comparison. It's definitely got some color in there. How does it compare to when they're like just faded out though? Great runes. Yeah, I thank God I have a great runes folder. Yeah, they're just plain grayed out usually, so. Yeah, okay, cool to know. All right, so let me can't do that. Okay. All right, so wait, I don't need you open Steam. Where were we? I lost my place now. Yeah, Godwin's funeral. Da da da.
Renala's Rune of the Unborn.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Da, 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 oriented to its left, shield America oriented to its right. Okay, yeah, so all this pretty consistent here. Pretty satisfied with this. But I feel like this is something I will eventually. Where is it? Let me do this. There we go. I will eventually, I feel, come back to this. Because I do feel like at some point, like I said, already the stuff with Renala or whatever, that's something that's worth kind of touching on perhaps. And it might take some of that analysis out of this earlier. Though, granted, I could see myself... I could see myself putting this to a side and be like, let's say there's a hypothetical Elden cosmology or Elden's beginning or whatever, right? And I would talk about the Elden Ring crashing down as the shooting star to Earth, right? I'd probably want to talk about a lot of the mechanics of the runes and the ring and all that stuff. So probably I might talk about that stuff with the Great Runes. It does look like it has a bit more color. Yeah, for sure I am. Yeah. Like, Melania has like a pinkish, you know, like has a pinkish one herself, right? So I don't know, maybe if there was some idea they wanted to have something similar for the twins. Renal is also very small. Yeah, compared to the others in terms of menu graphics. I'm not sure if the idea though is it's actually smaller than the other runes. So for the sake of, you know, keeping it, I just kept them same size for this, but yeah, I have a lot of questions about like sort of like where I would put some of this information, because like I said, Elden Ring would probably get like its own breakdown. I would want to include as many of the mechanics as I feel possible and relevant so we can get those out of the way. But again, that could distract. Yeah, like it could distract from this if I'm like kind of just like not covering it, but I don't know. Like I said, I may come back later if I realize something more significant. Like it's like, oh, there's actually very specific meaning or significance to runes on this side versus on this side. I don't know what that would be, because again, unfortunately, we see the runes seem to more or less be influenced by their demigods. So their effects seem to be more like, it's not like the demigods got runes with those effects. They got runes, and then their souls, I guess, for lack of a better word, their wills end up influencing those runes in ways that make them have certain effects that are reflective of them, right? Like with Godric and having like all the stats, various stats raised up because of his like, you know, grafted nature and coalescing people together, similar to the grafted greatsword. Morgoth's, I think it's just like super HP and stuff like that, you know, trying to be this like stalwart defender. Obviously Morgoth's has to do with like his blood covenant and stuff. Radahn's does like his, what was it, like strength, endurance, and focus. So like all the stuff related to him is like a sorcerer, strongman thing, right, with the gravity magic and all that. Renala's, like we said, hers seems to be a unique case because hers is isolated in the Amber Egg, so she doesn't get to influence hers. And then you get Melania, who's obviously been corrupted by rot, but also has her will of determination thing, so it does the same thing she does in combat. And then we never get to know what Miquella's would have done. Though, granted, if you guys are right, and the whole pink thing with there is it reflecting his brainwashing magic. I don't know, maybe a rune that makes it when you hit people enough times it would brainwash him. That would be kind of funny. Just turn every enemy you smack around into an ally. Be like, you're me, you're my friend. Now you're my friend. Now you're my friend. Now you're my friend. Eridon's is HP, MP, and stamina. Okay, yeah, it's not strength, it's HP. Gotcha. I was like, it has to be, yeah, it has to be like vigor. Yeah, I think they call it vigor, right? So vigor, focus, and endurance, then pretty sure it would be the stats. Anyway, point is that like, we'll talk about it more as we get into the Great Runes section for this stuff with the demigods and their mad taint and all that jazz. But all of this, I feel like it could purely just be a thematic thing. They just decided, hey, we're going to just like throw this in here as a nice little like Easter egg, I guess. But I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out like this preference for whatever runes has some deeper significance or something like that. The power of friendship rune. The rune of friendship. Well, okay, so here's the thing. In cut content, they call it they call them the runes of rot and abundance. Or runes of decay, I think was how they translate it as decay, even though they translate decay as rot for scarlet rot, but whatever. Anyway, point is that they did at least want to play on this idea of like abundance and rot as being like, you know, the big parallels between Miquella and Melania when they were like part of the same boss fight. I don't know if the idea was supposed to be that those were like the rune's core essence, or if there was still this idea that the runes were being like, you know, Miquella had an abundance thing, so he influenced the rune to be more abundance flavored. Same with like what we see with Melania's in the final game, or if the idea would have been separately, like they all happened to find or latch onto runes. Yeah, I think that's just a little too convenient. It's like, oh, you just happened to have within your vicinity to grab you the rune that perfectly suits your character, right? Like, I think that's where it's kind of like, yeah, that might be stretching things a little bit too much. Like, if it's like one character, okay, maybe, but it's like, you got like 8 demigods here, right? That's true. Miquella's charm breaks once he breaks his rune, and we use it to dispel his charm on us. I wonder if we could somehow tie in his charm stuff to his abundance then. I can't really think of it other than the idea of like, oh, you know, it's plentiful. Everyone likes plentiful, so everyone likes Miquella because he's plentiful. Oh god, that can be taken in many ways. Miquella is fertile. rune is buffing his charm powers at infinite range, I guess. Yeah, that would make sense. At the very least, it would have to be the idea that he's using his rune as a conduit as sorts, so it has the coloration then of that as a direct result, right? Like that would be how he influenced it, right? Because Radon doesn't really influence his rune that much directly, right? Until he gets afflicted with Scarlet Rot, then it's burning to resist the rot, right? And you can argue that's an effect of like, you know, Radon trying to burn to resist the rot or something, like his spirit or what have you, like, you know, the way he's got like, you know, the focus, the vitality and the endurance, you know, to deal with the rod in the same way that he handles all things and all, like you can kind of conceive of how it works. So maybe it's something similar with Mikola. They're perfect for each other, see? I also can't imagine how exactly Rykard's rune would have been influenced by him before he you know, he got himself eaten with it. Yeah, anyway, this, like I said, it's more so just the shapes I'm concerned about more than their effects, because it's very clear that the demigods are the ones that are influencing them, not the other way around. And I have to address the mad taint question as a result. But for now, my big concern is kind of like, will I have to come back and what will I have to do? Like, will it be something I have to do for individual characters? Or is it going to be something where like, I'm just going to talk about the central runes for these demigods and these other characters? Yeah, it's neat to know, but it's not really that important. It'd be kind of cool if we ever got to see what Ronnie's rune was, like concept art for it or something. I don't know if I said it before, but I'm becoming more and more convinced I think Ronnie's rune was one of the runes, because Enya offhandedly mentions how 2 runes were collected before. So we have essentially we have to either say that one great rune that isn't one of these and another great rune which is also not one of these have to have been collected, and they have to have been relatively more easily accessible, and the only ones I can think of are Ronnie's and some otherwise unaccounted for great rune. That, or we have some missing demigod of the shattering that has simply never come up ever. I don't think I can believe that, because I don't imagine somehow this demigod has existed and is not part of Morgoth's alliance, or is like some other secret Moog thing, right? Like, I just don't believe that's possible. Shard Bear Toxic Fujoshi. Yeah, it's gonna be something where this will probably be like on the back of my mind until something clicks, and I don't know if it ever will. So I guess we'll just see. In the meantime, back to it.
We can even view this as the separation between each owner of a great rune is regarded as a shard bearer, though it is more accurate to call them a ruler of their fragment. If the complete Elden Ring makes one king of the world, then a piece of the ring logically made them partial sovereign over it. Those who came to rule this fractured world consist mainly of Godric, Morgoth, Mog, Radon, Runni, Rykard, Milnia, and Miquella. Members of the Golden Lineage all received the central runes aligned with the ring's main stock, Radagon's children with Rennala-possessed runes oriented to its left, and his children with Marika Harbor runes oriented to its right. Since the last kind also include Rennala's Rune of the Unborn, we can even view this as the separation between eras, before Radagon, and after Radagon became king. Perhaps for the shard bearers, this clean distribution is coincidence, but it at least suggests that something about those runes' construction drew their owners to them. Regardless of preference, however, they each took a great rune for themselves. That was where the trouble began. While it would be the humanitarian thing to return the scattered runes to the Erdtree so that the order might be immediately mended, that isn't what happened. Instead, every demigod kept the shards. And in becoming rulers, they also asserted their candidacy to Elden Lord. Even the 3 Umbrians claimed to want the mantle of their mother's consort. This by itself isn't too surprising. Even if initially taken aback by the Erdtree's wrath, its princes and princesses must have realized the significance of great runes appearing before them amidst the shock. And once the royalty received clarification from the 2 fingers, circumstances opened up an opportunity. If they held onto their shards and bet the same from the others, no one would be able to restore the ring, giving them leverage to demand the throne in exchange for their charity. The mere perception of competitors would dissuade the rest to freely relinquish theirs. Suddenly, the shard bearers were all holding the world hostage.
Okay. Yell? We're waiting. I don't know why it does this sometimes.
Hostage. Some fans have considered the possibility that the demigods are mentally compromised in some way.
What? Huh? Hello? Skipping paragraphs? What? Excuse me?
The game's introduction mentions a mad taint, the Japanese script more precisely declaring that the demigods became warped with the rune's power.
Okay, yeah, I don't like this transition. Let's mark this early, because I don't like how this needs a cleaner transition. I don't know if it needs to happen up here or down here or something, but we need a clearer transition into this, because I think this just needs better connecting tissue. Anyway, moving on.
The game's introduction mentions a mad taint, the Japanese script more precisely declaring that the demigods became warped with the rune's power and went mad before kickstarting a war. Enya says much of the same, implying that having such power distorted their characters to the point of killing each other. This in itself isn't too surprising. None of the demigods
would have been Mesmer's. So that would be funny if the idea is that like they somehow found and collected Mesmer's great Like Mesmer had a great rune in the realm of shadow, and he had given it up. Like, you imagine, like, Gideon Ofnir finding the realm of shadow, like, not knowing that Mikola was there at all. Like, he just goes there, meets with Mesmer, be like, listen, we need the great rune for that. And Mesmer just gives it, being like, oh yeah, Mikola told me about the you. Who? It's like, oh, never mind. Oh, that'd be so funny. Anyway. But yeah, it's definitely one of those weird things where it's like, okay, we have to somehow 2 great runes had to have been collected, and ideally this would had to have occurred while Morgott was still letting them around in the city and stuff like that, right? So yeah, something. Yeah, it's gonna be fun whenever I get around to doing like the Tarnished era, because it's like, God, there's a lot of different characters and stuff that are happening there, and then of course the stuff with the burning and everything. Like, there's a lot of moving parts. Anyway.
Should have ever seen the Elden Ring firsthand, safeguarded within the Erd Tree behind the Elden Throne. The scattered fragments would therefore be their first exposure to runes of that scale, with all the power of gold contained therein. Seeing just a fraction of the power invites the mind to consider the full strength of the complete ring. And now, their mother is imprisoned, with the Greater Will searching for a new Elden Lord to reign on her behalf. To become the effective owner of so much power with which you may set the course of the very world, anyone would be tempted to obtain it for themselves. But as we know from our journey, mending the ring requires multiple great runes. And how best to attain these runes? Take them from their owners. Some fans have considered the possibility that the demigods are mentally compromised in some way due to the overwhelming arcane power in their possession, but the chances of this are minuscule to say the least. Facing the demigods ourselves, we are provided no indication that the great runes directly influence them physically or mentally. To the extent that they are warped, it is never attributable to the great runes, but some other factor, several of which predate acquiring a mass of gold. This is consistent with Renala, who has owned a great rune for much longer and suffers psychological troubles stemming from events prior. One might argue that the runes only exacerbate existing vulnerabilities rather than create them whole cloth, but plenty of shard bearers still act perfectly reasonable even if foolish or repugnant. None warn us of such dangers even as we collect great runes either. All in all, there is no reason to believe that the great runes exert a force upon their respective ruler. Put simply, the demigods have no one to blame for their actions but themselves. Whatever their psychosis, it was their reaction in the face of a promise for ultimate power which led to war. Their madness was a willingness to kill kin for their runes, a moral failing, not a mental one. If anything, it is the rulers warping their shards. Melinia's rune was apparently supposed to be the most holy, as the child of Marika and Radagon, the one god, and is half decayed from her scarlet rot as well as harboring her will to resist said rot. This implies that the great runes are shaped in part by the demigod holding onto them. This isn't the sole criteria, as there is its existing shape and function within the Elden Ring. Radon's rune, for instance, burns to resist the scarlet rot encroaching, extending the bearer's life, focus, and endurance as a result. Still, this proves that the runes have their own reactions to external stimuli. The gold may not be truly alive, but it is influenced by life and so has been warped physically. This tension between the effects of the great runes on their owners and vice versa is reflected in an IGN interview before the game's release. When asked about a singular theme for enemy or boss design, director Hidetaka Miyazaki spoke of the warped power each demigod had inherited along with the individual element. He later references how the heroic mythology to their design also contains these mad distortions. But if the only warps to the runes come from the demigods themselves, then it is illogical to say that the runes gave them the madness. It would already be theirs. Miyazaki thus seems to be speaking retroactively. The demigods inherited the runes, became warped and mad from the power itself, passed that so-called mad taint onto the runes, then fell to ruin as he describes carrying both. In short, the great runes brought the demigods power, but it wasn't that warped power which warped them in anything but the most abstract of sense, which matches the interview's question on themes. The dispute between the demigods ran much deeper than attaining power beyond them. We just see the triggers and results. Part of that trigger was intense military buildup. Whether from their own private armies, defections from the royal army, or new enlistees, almost every shard bearer amassed a force to protect themselves and challenge the others. With them came an array of aristocrats, each choosing their sides for who they supported becoming Elden Lord in the conflict. Because the Shattering was a civil war, every side was using the same swords, shields, and even crossbow bolts, with armors also more similar than not. Barring questions of individual skill and collective strategy, the conflict was gearing up to become a nasty affair, with every demigod raising their own banner prepared to clash. It didn't matter if any actually wanted the crown, so long as opposition kept it out of the other's hands. The shard bearer's standstill was soon becoming a standoff, and would lead to war. But then, a new king stepped into the vacuum, an omen delaying conflict. Morgott becomes king of Leyndell. No one would expect Morgott to one day be king. As an Omen unceremoniously dumped in the sewers to fend for himself, his prospects were anything but bright. Even among Omen, he wasn't particularly pious. Among the Fell twins, the one representing Morgott is the wild-horned Omen existing on the fringes of even sewer society. This suggests that, growing up, he refused to be collared, choosing to let his curse run wild as he roamed the network of channels and pipes beneath Leyndell. This rebellious attitude isn't too surprising, as the description for his great rune makes a point that the Omen didn't love because he wasn't loved. Having internalized the betrayal of his parents, clan, and all society, the young Morgott understandably felt resentful, leading to him to harden his heart. No one could get close, certainly not to chain him down like a beast. He already lived with one shackle trapping him down there. He didn't need another going about his day-to-day hunting for rats or scraps.
Okay.
Even so, we see that the short-lived weapons from the priesthood ended up in the young Omen's hands, which he used to help him survive as the threats grew to not just disease or vermin, but also foul Omen killers like Rollo. This only helped him further develop his mastery over his curse. As experienced in the Fell Twins boss fight, Morgott learned to use the cursed power he unleashes to briefly enhance his sword and channel that power into attacks against his foes in general. On his own, he had nothing else to rely on but the vile spirits haunting his nightmares. But for Morgott, nothing was probably more terrifying than being abandoned by others, making those nasty faces almost cute by comparison. If he could turn them into a tool for his survival, he welcomed it. Dreams were fleeting. The fight to live was forever. As a result of that constant strife underground, the demigod honed his skills with the blade. Based on the boss fight, he didn't use his talent for incantations, either because the boy's training was incomplete or because he reviled the arts of the people who put him down there. But one day things changed. Morgott suddenly found himself out of the sewers and assuming the throne of the city, which banished him. More importantly, He is regarded as graced, despite his graceless origins, with Gideon additionally referencing him as the formless king. Indeed, before his character was scrapped, Shade Hate would have talked up the Grace King ruling his city. After taking credit for us hunting the Omen underground at his demand, the lowly lordling would express jubilation at the chance to see Morgott's form and finally raise his family station, only to be horrified to discover his beautiful city of nobles was governed by a hideous omen of deceit. Clearly, none within the general populace of Leyndell, let alone the lands between, are aware that the demigod on the throne is a corrupted prince, the king neither making public appearances nor letting word leak out of his true nature. He was, for all intents and purposes, more like the Golden Capital's Shadow King. Naturally, this situation begs many questions, the first being why? How does an omen among all the demigods become the king of Leyndell? Certainly not by himself. At the bare minimum, Morgott's ascension requires a significant backing from the parties operating the government. If they refuse to serve an omen, then it would be impossible for Morgott to rule the city without the truth becoming public knowledge. The demigod needed some portion of the bureaucracy to be a buffer between him and the people. But who would have the public's trust even as the king behind them refused audiences? The obvious candidate is the Erd Tree priesthood. The priests hold credibility as the teachers of faith, especially in the royal capital which doubles as the religious center for Erd Tree worship. Shade Hate likewise would mention reporting to them before getting permission to an audience with Morgott. With the god and Elden Lord absent, the clergy were the one faction to logically fill the vacuum. In that case, it follows for those same clerics to install Morgott as king.
Okay.
Choosing an omen for the Elden Throne might sound peculiar as first blush, but it isn't so peculiar. As already established, a significant portion of the priesthood are sympathetic to corruption.
Let's see. This needs to, that just sounds awkward. That needs to be fixed. Yeah, there wasn't anything like that leading up to that either. Yeah, so I don't know why there were so many spaces there up there. Anyway. All right, so yeah. Maybe like change this to isn't so odd, or just, you know, generally just change up the sentence. Anyway, continuing.
As already established, a significant portion of the priesthood are sympathetic to corruption. It was this pity which drove the clergy as a whole to arm the omen in opposition to a dissident splinter group. Compassion for the order's outsiders was dogma, and some unsurprisingly take it to the extreme. In an omen encampment, we encounter a corpse with a perfume bottle behind them at the campfire, implying that a perfumer attempted to ingratiate himself with the campers. Evidently, it didn't go well. That kind of suicidal empathy can even be spotted in Leyndell. Slaves of the Eastern Quarter have rebelled, misbegotten mutilating human bodies after death in their long-seething resentment. Free to return to their pagan ways, the rebels pray to their ancestors, and cooperating with them, receiving their respect, are perfumers. These priests, in their sympathy, have betrayed their kingdom to a slave revolt, the one with perfume bottle remaining loyal cold in the streets like the rest. With all this in mind, it isn't so odd to think that the clerical establishment would be receptive to an omen king. Albeit corrupted, the twins were still members.
I don't like how that's worded. I got the idea. The one with the perfume bottle to establish it's a perfumer, right? Remaining loyal, though, I feel like this could be phrased better. So this one we're gonna have to watch here. Yeah. I usually call this Pagan Quarter, so maybe switch this to Eastern District or Ward. Fix that up. Yeah, like I said, this omen section is gonna be the one that has the most problems, I feel like. As long as if you return. Yeah, everything else. Again, I'm trying to essentially, like, we talk about, obviously we've talked about the Misbegotten before. We talked about them farm colonies, right? They come up in Altus Unification War, right? So I've alluded to those leaving here. Like, even in a Tarnished Heroes thing, they would come up again, because I have to talk about how literally all their homes are burnt. So of course they're pit, and they've basically been neglected despite that. So of course they're going to be pissed enough to be like, hey, we're just going to revolt. Right? So like all of that is like, we talk about them so many times. So I'm trying to like condense as much of this as possible while acknowledging all the relevant factors. I don't think we see any mention. Yeah, I don't think I include this. Ooh, that might be something too. I don't remember if I mentioned the stray dogs in the streets and stuff enough. I'll have to think about that one. Anyway.
With all this in mind, it isn't so odd to think that the clerical establishment would be receptive to an omen king. Albeit corrupted, the twins were still members of the golden lineage. Lack of clear succession aside, a child of Marika would be ideal to maintain continuity within the system. Stability of the kingdom also demanded someone promptly fill the vacuum the god and her consort left. The priesthood assuredly recognized how demigods would soon begin vying to become Elden Lord, with shard-bearers holding all the leverage over the Elden Ring's fate. Them killing each other to achieve the numbers needed to repair the Elden Ring was a foreseeable outcome. Preventing civil war in the streets was the clergy's top priority, if only for their own survival. But who to back when any of these demigod contenders might be part of the conspiracy which shattered their order in the first place? Enter the Omen Princes, men with no possible connection to the conspiracy. They were the safest bet against undermining the Golden Order further. The only problem was that these isolated brothers needed to own a great rune to counterbalance the other demigods, but that was easily remedied. As gatekeepers to the Erd Trade, the priests themselves were positioned to obtain a number of great runes. According to its description, Morgott's rune is undeniable proof that he was king of Leyndell, implying that receiving the rune and receiving his crown are connected. accepted. If the priesthood installed a shard bearer as their liege, then they must also be how the Omen twins obtained theirs. The perfumers collecting ring fragments for themselves likewise justifies foreknowledge of conflict with others holding the same power. The stakes were clear to the holy men, and they needed to act quickly. Therefore, the Erdtree priests most likely approached the Omen twins with their offer of a great rune and the Elden Throne, to which Morgott accepted. If the priests supplied the runes, then their choice is just as telling about their motivations. The anchor runes holding the others together at the center have come to represent Godfrey and his clan for their similarly essential role as the kingdom's foundation. For Morgott and Mog to own similar runes, the priesthood must have been specifically searching for someone of Godfrey's blood to assert strength as king. If they wanted to protect both the Erdtree and the capital from bloodshed, they couldn't go wrong with one of the golden. And with two options both unrelated to current-day politics, the perfumers could afford to fail convincing one. If anything, they might have been surprised when the one to accept was a twin so rebellious in youth. But what the priests might not have realized was how much the unloving prince had matured in more recent years. Morgott's cursed sword was created using his blood, the fluid modified into a solid edge. This appears to have been accomplished by pouring it into the hollow of a large wooden stick he uses as both a cane and club, akin to a shillelagh. This explains the blade's warped shape, which he only reveals after crushing the wood before our boss battle at the Elden Throne. The specks of gold interspersed in the wood indicates that it was faintly blessed by the Erdtree, if not an actual piece of it. Since we do see that a handful of branches have made their way into the sewers, the Omen picking up such a stick down there is more than feasible. But the reason Morgott infused his own blood into that cane wasn't to create a sword he would evidently never use until our battle, but to seal the stuff away. As demonstrated in the boss battle, Morgott's cursed blood contains blood flame, the gift of the formless mother. Sure.
I like the double negative here. Wasn't to create a sword he would evidently never use. I mean, it's not that. I want to review it still. I didn't like how that came off. Anyway, back to it.
As demonstrated in the boss battle, Morgott's cursed blood contains blood flame, the gift.
I also don't like it until our battle, and then I guess it's fine. Okay.
Morgott's cursed blood contains blood flame, the gift of the formless mother. Shirking the outer god's blessing, he answered her with hiding the arcane inside an Erdtree vessel. Communion with this outer god is a simple scenario to imagine. Upon closer inspection, royal omen appear to regularly cut their horns from the head down the back, presumably to manage discomfort whenever they lay down to rest. Even those recluses who let their horns grow wild provide the self-care, with cuts extending from the shoulders all the way down to the hands. The pain for them must be especially intolerable. The fell twins show that Morgott was no exception. In that case, there was plenty of blood spilled throughout his youth, leaving plenty of opportunity for the formless mother to make herself known to him. And when she eventually did, Morgott was given the opportunity to embrace his cursed blood for power, to change his fate of never-ending survival. And the demigod rejected it. As to why, he gave his answer in the form of the vessel with which the man sealed his curse away. Indeed, as the description to his remembrance reveals.
It's also a bit awkward because obviously I have to talk about the shattering before I can talk about Moog and his role and stuff like that. Moog in general is just very awkward because, like, yeah, it's clear you need at least some context about Mikola and things to talk about Moog, because what Moog is doing and what he's intending to do by getting Mikola instead of the others and all that stuff. Like, Moog is just a really awkward character in general for this. You can say this for a lot of the demigods though, because a lot of the demigod stories just kind of intertwine and stuff like that. It's kind of like, you know, it's hard to get a full picture without seeing each side and what they're doing and what they know and what they're thinking of at the time and stuff like that, and reconstructing that the way I'm trying to do is not the easiest task, that's for sure. But nah, c'est la vie, we're moving on.
Indeed, as the description to his remembrance reveals, the unloving Omen nonetheless loved the Erdtree. That beautifully shining monument to gold towering overhead from his childhood had seized his hardened heart. As to why when he felt so unloved, it was, in all likelihood, simply because it exists. The sword monument to the second defense of Lendl notes how the Erdtree makes no reaction to Morgott. It doesn't quiver at the Omen's presence, but neither does it sway in his favor. It simply stands tall, unfluctuating either way, and that was evidently all that Morgott wanted. Rather than the fickle affections of parents or society, he appreciates the Erdtree's indifference, unchanging even as the people who supposedly loved him threw him out of its sight. Even then, the tree always stood by him, roots entangled in the sewers. One can argue that this entire time, it never abandoned him even when everyone else did. It remained a cornerstone, giving his life foundation. His encounter with the formless mother seems to be what awakened this epiphany within Morgott. Did he really want to continue down this path? No. Morgott wished not for flame to burn inside him. The Erdtree need no more reasons to reject him. The Omen took that cursed blood smoldering with blood flame and threw it in a wooden receptacle. Compressing it within the vessel may be why the resulting solid blade appears iridescent like petroleum, but it nevertheless demonstrates the difference between it and his normal blood. In fact, Morgott's curse is unique. While the Omen King does vomit and explode with his curse like during the Fell Twins fight, it isn't the fiery cursed spirits we are familiar with, but a simple vial. This vaporous fluid isn't completely harmless, as the pool it forms in the Elden Throne Room bubbles up hazardous geysers, with a new one appearing wherever he strikes. His sword is likewise still covered in a burning malediction from the explosion. Still, it isn't the wrathful elders chasing us in reality or the Omen in their dreams. Morgott apparently lost that aspect to his curse. But how? First off, this vial is clearly not natural. Morgott only begins expelling the stuff as he suffers in our battle beneath the Erdtree, suggesting that he was keeping it suppressed until his injuries throw him off balance. By the end of the fight, he has been completely drained of this cursed fluid.
Oh, yeah, I don't like this section at all. Oh, like it starts out okay when we're going into trying to discuss the personal stuff, but this I do not like at all. Yeah, I don't think the blood flame affects like the, you know, his curse at all beyond like, you know, amplifying or adding to it, right? So that's not really this I had to kind of like include there for the parallels, but still chasing the Omen. But how, like, yeah, like, so like this I'm not happy with, but like it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with it. I'm just not happy with it. This though, there's so many problems here. I feel like this section I could somehow incorporate into here more naturally. I don't know. I have to think about that one. Yeah, I just feel like in general this could probably be abbreviated. I would actually just say like this entire thing. I just don't like this sentence. And then as we keep going with this.
By the end of the fight, he has been completely drained of this cursed fluid, resulting in him losing almost all of his omen traits, his tall stature, robust physique, even his horns. We essentially bleed him dry, his curse violently spilling out as a consequence. After the battle, he can do little more than speak as he slowly dies, his body fading into golden light, seemingly accepted by the Erd Tree, after it finally expires in Godfrey's arms whilst it burns. Perhaps that is just desperation on the dying tree's part, but there is no denying that Morgott loses his omen element along with that tempestuous bile. It has sat with him this entire time, and can only leave his body with his life. But despite the instability, it is not actively malicious like the animate spirits. Instead, it is almost like a passive mush he carries. This bizarre form of the curse also explains his horn state. As we witness, Morgott currently has far less horns than his fell twin counterpart, or omen in general. The curse marks are concentrated on his head, with a few implied on his back from the impressions in his robe, albeit they aren't reflected on his actual model underneath. Otherwise, we spy horns only at the end of his long tail. No omen or horn scent possesses such a dexterous appendage besides Morgott. And if the fell twins are any indication, this was—
1 second, chat. The monster is awake. I'll be right there. All right. Sorry about that. I had to appease the monster. Pupper has been appeased. All right, now where were we?
Isn't always the case. The tail is therefore liable to be related to his wider loss of horns. And the only major difference between Morgott and—
Do this I just don't like it.
now and back in his younger days is the form his curse takes. In short, whatever caused the cursed spirits to become an inanimate bile, it created a horned tail while also reducing his number of horns overall. In all likelihood, the prince purged himself of those spirits. Shehate would make a point that the cries of omen heard coming from the sewers was endlessly corrupting the Erd Tree, and Morgott feels similarly regarding his own curse. Even after resorting to his cursed sword, he doesn't actually employ blood flame until he involuntarily discharges the bile, corrupting the throne room at the Erd Tree's base anyway. If he wished to minimize the desecration of the ever so magnanimous tree with his existence, then exposing it to fewer distasteful elements was a worthy goal. And even if sealing away the flame in his blood before it consumed him, it may have given him the idea of purifying the existing curse of his blood. Put simply, Morgott confronted the demons of his nightmares and slaughtered them, reducing the spirits inside him to the mess of bile we see. That didn't remove the curse, but it weakened it, resulting in the fewer horns on his body. It is doubtful that this suppression of the curse has anything to do with him re-embracing the holy arts of his youth. If incantations could such a thing, the perfumers would have done this for all omens long ago. Rather, it speaks more to Morgott's individual resolve. Contrast his kin. The prince graduated from his childhood fears, so determined was he to be rid of them entirely. As to the addition of his tail, one can imagine the omen willing the remaining curse be expunged from his body. Of course, the curse ultimately couldn't—
Yeah, I don't like any of this. Again, I think this is still, I think this is the most likely to be true. The problem is that I don't think it's the best way to argue this. And I feel like there has to be a better way, things to reference. Like, again, this is where I feel like I'm most missing out on the cosmology. Because if I had more cosmology to give more precedent to this idea of will, of being able to use will to cause the body physical changes, right? Like, the closest I can think of right off the top of my head is like, oh, the formless mother with blood fiends, right? But that's an outer god. Like, this is we're talking about like personal cultivation of one's physical form, right? Like a type of like, you know, self-enlightenment of a way, right? Or some type of obsession similar to what we see with in Dark Souls with the Crowmen or the Lionmen and stuff like that. So I just don't like it. I don't like this. Like, this is the stuff that I feel like I'm going to be like most like rewriting myself potentially just to make this just not so shit. Whatever.
Be separated from him without costing his life. But through centering himself with meditation, he might have isolated a significant mass and tried exorcising it, the sheer force of will manifesting in a tail extending out from his rear as the filth was pushed out from his core. Seeing the results, the prince assumedly never tried this again, resigning himself to live with this curse for all his days. But if all—
yeah, like, again, I still think this is the most, it's just like, do I have anything else to help give this better precedent, right? Like, a lot of this, like if I was trying to factor in Dark Souls, I'd be like, okay, yeah, we see this a lot in Dark Souls, right? But Dark Souls isn't Elden Ring, right? Like, that's the problem, right? I'd have to establish a new precedent, I feel like, for this to better make this feel less, you know, speculative, right? I just don't like this. I do not. I do not envy my position here.
All he had to do was choke down some bile. That was manageable. And so until seriously injured, Morgott lived like an ascetic, with a simple staff and bare essentials containing his corruption. All of this is to say that the Morgott the perfumers encountered following Marika's sin was a changed man. Despite his omen status, the great rune he took a hold of glows the brightest gold as proof of his golden lineage. In the priesthood's eyes, there was no one better suited to be king. The prince, for his part, must have felt overjoyed to be called to serve the Erd tree. He may bear no love for the kingdom, but if the tree required a lord defender, he would answer. The only problem was the shackle, but that could be surgically removed with the expertise of the incantation experts now behind him, although they failed to properly dispose of the fetish, allowing a fragment to somehow end up in Patch's inventory for sale. Besides this gross oversight, however, Morgott could safely transition from a whole—
All right. In fairness here, I think most likely happened was they discarded in the sewer, because, you know, it's basically a trash dump, right? I think what happened was, like Morgott's seal, it was basically discarded in the sewers and left to basically rot. But Patches being Patches, when the Tarnished were allowed in the capital with Morgott, essentially, you know, where is he going to go? He's going to go where all the seedy folk are. So he goes into the sewers, and it's, you know, through one thing or after another, this ends up in his inventory, whether he finds it or he trades around for, or, you know, he's bartering for that. Like, again, I do think maybe I should soften this language here, because I don't think it's as crazy a leap when you look at it in the larger context of what we know was happening with the Tarnished initially. And the idea that he might pick up something like this, be like, oh, this could be very useful or something, right? Like, again, it's very convenient, obviously, because he happens to be selling it in Limgrave when we get to go fight Market there or whatever. But it's like, you know, okay, we're just going to hand wave that for video game logic. He's a kind of a secret for you to find anyway, right? So it's more like a player reward. I'm not going to harp too hard on that. Let's see. So let's start back from the changed man at the beginning here.
All of this is to say that the Morgott the perfumers encountered following Marika's sin was a changed man. Despite his omen status, the great rune he took a hold of glows the brightest gold as proof of his golden lineage. In the priesthood's eyes, there was no one better suited to be king. The prince, for his part, must have felt overjoyed to be called to serve the Erd tree. He may bear no love for the kingdom, but if the tree required a lord defender, he would answer. The only problem was the shackle, but that could be surgically removed with the expertise of the incantation experts now behind him, although they failed to properly dispose of the fetish, allowing a fragment to somehow end up in Patch's inventory for sale.
Yeah.
Besides this gross oversight, however, Morgott could safely transition from a hooligan of the under—
Let's do that. I think this entire thing could be potentially... Yeah, I think a lot of this could be fixed up there. So, like, yeah, that's the biggest issue I have there. Transition from hooligan of the Undercity to monarch of the Erd tree capital.
Fooling the citizens was simple. With so many demigods in the royal family, what was one more, hereto unknown, child of Marika taking power? What mattered was the confidence the holy cathedral placed in him. Thus began the myth of the Grace King. Shardbearer Alliance. After discreetly exiting the dark sewers, Morgott settled into the Erd tree sanctuary as his new home, specifically into the Elden Throne. The throne room beneath the golden tree is where he steps out of the shadows to confront us in Leyndell, and in the story trailer, he lays a crown upon the Elden Throne before leaving, the same kind worn by Godfrey and Radagon before him. As King of Leyndell, Morgott was already acting as if he were Elden Lord, a cut description to his robe going so far as to label him one. He was the man in charge, so why not sit as the Erd tree's defender? The priesthood probably always intended for him to assume that role, and his position behind the cathedral made hiding the omen's true identity easier. The only thing he couldn't do was actually become the true king. Morgott reveals how the impenetrable thorns of rejection keep anyone from entering the Erd tree to visit Marika, regardless of the runes in their possession. This was the case as early as Morgott's departure in the trailer, which Rand's narration implies to be concurrent with the shattering. Therefore, even before war broke out, the tree was rejecting entrance. Morgott sees this as the Erd tree forsaking them all.
I was like, is that another glitch or is that... No, it actually is Ronnie's. There we go. Ronnie's narration. Let's fix that. Yeah, there we go.
This was the case as early as Morgott's departure in the trailer, which Runny's narration implies to be concurrent with the shattering. Therefore, even before war broke out, the tree was rejecting entrance. Morgott sees this as the Erd tree forsaking them all, unwilling to have any as its Elden Lord. This isn't too surprising, as talking to him more betrays his own feelings of inadequacy. The Omen never expected to be accepted as Elden Lord, given how the tree moves neither way for him. Still, his dialogue suggests that it does sting, especially after committing everything to become its champion. What the Omen doesn't seem to realize is that his beloved Erd tree isn't blocking out him and everyone else of its volition. It is impossible to miss Radagon's Elden rune prominently manifesting over the Wall of Thorns, a straightforward sign of the last Lord using the tree to effectuate his own will. Morgott, of course, would know nothing about Radagon during his imprisonment underground, and the Omen shows no interest in Golden Order fundamentalism or much of the history he missed. He thus has no idea what the Elden rune signifies, and no ally has apparently told him. In fairness, the priesthood themselves are potentially unaware of the rune, as the thorns may have only appeared after Radagon saw Morgott come take his throne. Unless Morgott allowed them to closely examine it, and he behaves recalcitrant to seemingly anyone deigning to do so, then the king would be left clueless about the thorn's cost.
I will say this is probably the biggest stretch, I think, in the entire narrative here. The idea that Morgott basically goes on believing that this is just the Erd tree, and that nobody around is being like, huh, there's this Radagon rune here, right? It's like, okay, the idea that maybe somehow nobody else knew about this except Morgott, and I guess the demigods who he eventually has to basically share this with, because essentially, like, this is the only way that the entire premise of the Alliance makes any lick of sense, right? So there are definitely problems here where it's like, this is supposed to be this big reveal. Keep in mind, even the two fingers, like, The best you could say is maybe the Two Fingers knew about the thorns, but thought that when the demigods were forsaken or whatever, that and the tarnished were chosen instead, that like just you collecting the Elden runes, like the great runes and stuff, and you would allow you to get easy access. The thorns wouldn't get in your way. But still, it's one of these big things where it's like, this feels like a huge jump we're making here now, right? That like basically no one has been taking these things into consideration this entire time, and it's always been apparently a mainstay. Like I don't know how I feel about that, but you know, that's a narrative critique.
As far as he can tell, the Erdtree itself is rejecting the world, logical after the harm the world has done to it. And so, it didn't matter if the Omen owned all the great runes needed to mend the ring, he still wouldn't be able to become Elden Lord. Although he despairs at that fact now, at the time, he may have initially hoped to prove himself and earn the Erdtree's favor. Even if he brushed off such an idea as wishful thinking, the Grace King was still devoted to making his beloved happy. If it rejected him and everyone else, then the solution was to assuage the tree's fears, have it judge one of them as the worthy successor to Radagon. And the only way to accomplish that was to introduce the shard bearers to the tree. It is no wonder that Morgott was the one to prepare countermeasures against the likes of assassins sneaking into Leyndell again. He wanted the demigods to feel safe in a city. Despite taking charge, the capital became open to the competing factions under this Grace King's reign. After all, the unseen monarch was using his position not to seize permanent power, but offer a chance for every party to take his place.
I feel this is overridden. I feel like some of this stuff, if I'm going to include it, I should move it around to other sections. Like, I just feel like this is bordering on word salad for me. Like, we don't need all of this here right now. Like, it's maybe sprinkled along, you know, maybe that'd be fine. But no, I do not like this here. This seems way too much. Anyway, moving on.
When confronting Morgott at the Elden Throne, we can see him generating golden illusions of various thrones modeled on it, much like with Mesmer. From their individual sizes and the different demigods associated with each, it is clear that every shard bearer sat in a circle together at one point, which the story trailer reaffirms with physical thrones in those spots. The reason for such gatherings is evident from reading the sword monument to the first defense of Leyndell. Although the localization dubs it as just a sovereign alliance, the monument actually recounts a ruler alliance in obvious reference to the shard bearers. In short, all the demigods of the Shattering had originally formed a coalition. While Morgott would sit in the true throne, the others would gather facing him in their own seats out of respect for their potential to be king. The obvious goal of these meetings was to decide the matter of succession amicably, each ruler allowed to make his or her case for becoming Elden Lord before the Erdtree. Until a consensus was reached and the tree responded favorably, King Morgott would remain the effective regent. Th. Omen wasn't proposing an alliance out of some affinity for King. His speech before our battle beneath the Erdtree confirms that he considers all the shardbearers besides himself and his twin to be pillagers, consumed by ambition. He was under no illusion that these demigods were anything more than enemies to the Erdtree.
Yes?
Erdtree, cut dialogue highlights its expectation to even do it. But even if the great runes were stolen from his precious gold, the tree would none.
Yeah, it's doing this again. Okay. I'm pretty sure we fixed this by just restarting this, right? Pretty sure this fixes it, but just to be sure.
When Marika shattered the Elden Ring, her government...
Yeah, I don't know why that happens. Sorry, guys. It's such a random thing. That's where the shattering begins. I'm not sure if consensus is really that important, so... Like, I like the way that comes out in this, but I don't know if that's really real. Okay. Now let's get that here.
The Omen wasn't proposing an alliance out of some affinity for Kin. His speech before our battle beneath the Erdtree confirms that he considers all the shardbearers besides himself and his twin to be pillagers, consumed by ambition. He was under no illusion that these demigods were anything more than enemies to the Erdtree. Cut dialogue highlights his expectation to even do it ill. But even if the great runes were stolen from his precious gold, the tree would nonetheless die without the Elden Ring mended. At the same time,
again, I do not like the way that is worded. I don't like that. Like, God, I am not a fan of this draft. It's definitely my most vomity of vomit drafts.
But even if the great runes were stolen from his precious gold, the tree would nonetheless die without the Elden Ring mended. At the same time, it wouldn't do to spill blood at its base. As our journey shows, the golden tree isn't in imminent danger. Morgott needn't rush to restore the golden order. Rather than throw everything into chaos and risk a protracted conflict, better to solve this amicably. The king therefore invited each demigod to join an alliance where they would decide amongst themselves who is best fit to rule. This made it inevitable that the shard bearers know the Omen's true identity. Godric highlights as much in cut dialogue, the one bearer referencing Morgott's status as an abandoned child and Omen king. If he knew, then surely the others realized the same upon first meeting Leyndell's supposed king. However, Morgott was apparently not concerned, and for good reason. With the priesthood's backing, the king had seized control of the royal army and Leyndell's bureaucracy. Although a contender might conceive to shout the truth through the streets right then and there, it was that person's word against the capital's entire religious body. Moreover, acting on this information put the demigod in an awkward spot. If the others took Morgott's side, then the decrier would easily end up arrested for slander, removing one more competitor for the throne. And in the end, Morgott's plan was reasonable, offering everyone a fair chance to take his place while also denying their rivals a decisive advantage. Everyone could see that it was in their best interest to play along. And so, the alliance was formed without much issue. Of course, the cracks would begin to show almost immediately. With every party outwardly invested in becoming Elden Lord, the Alliance's meetups were likely dragged into endless debates, one demigod countering another with why they lacked qualifications or a proper vision for moving the kingdom forward past this crisis. Morgott might not mind these wars of words, since he was assumedly moderating as host of the venue. But as talks stretched into likely weeks or months with seemingly no progress, this alliance was clearly going nowhere but deadlock. The eerily silent Erdtree wasn't going to be accepting any of their arguments. All the while, the demigods between meetings would be returning to their homes, their armies, their supporters, and game plan the path forward, possibly holding private discussions with each other. This is the nature of politics, and it was something that Morgott, for all his street smarts, lacked experience with. As a result, he made the naive mistake of assuming that everyone was taking part in good faith when there was still a plot afoot. According to the monument, the first defense of Leyndell marked the alliance's collapse from within. Rather than give up a great rune to another, demigods were beginning to raise armies and launch assaults on Leyndell. The rationale was simple. If they conquered the capital, they had control of the Erdtree, the Elden Throne, and likely the Great Runes. From cut dialogue, Godric expects to find Morgott, Maelnia, and Miquella at the Erdtree's base, making for 3 great runes to add to a Shardbearer's own. That is more than we require to mend the Elden Ring, making Leyndell a hypothetical treasure trove, winner takes all. Morgott was surely aware of this, but may never have expected anyone to break the alliance when it was the safer alternative. Little did he suspect that some might use the discussions as a ruse to buy time and build up a force to attack.
Yeah, Miyazaki mentions the throne as well because it was in promotional material. The point was clearly making that Miyazaki said that he wanted to highlight how Mesmer was like, he was no slouch when compared to the Shardbearers. Like, he was on their level, right? That was supposed to be the idea they wanted to convey. And it makes sense also, the idea being that he is essentially like, you know, if Godfrey was the Elden Lord, right, you know, ruler, defender of the Erdtree in the lands between, then Mesmer was essentially his counterpart in the realm of shadow as defender, you know, at the base of the shadow tree and his shadow all the way. Like it's very clear the idea of like sort of the parallels being made there. And we even see, of course, the various like talisman stuff referencing to Godfrey and all that. Yeah, so I think all of it like that all like kind of works cohesively or whatever. But because of the fact that I would have my Mesmer stuff that would mention that obviously before the shattering, I have to kind of like act with the assumption that, oh yeah, I would have already talked about the throne there. So I'm just mentioning it being like, yeah guys, like this Mesmer's throne would be the first time we'd actually be discussing the comparisons or whatever. It also simplifies the analysis here because I just be like, yeah, it's like Mesmer's throne, guys.
The first attempt evidently ended in failure. Leyndell's soldiers trained to be the capital's living rampart, and they performed as expected. It wasn't a gigantic dragon hurling itself at them, after all. The battle appears to have been won after Kristoff, one of the knights, successfully led forces to capture Godofroy the Grafted. For his meritorious deed, the soldier was honored as a hero and awarded with Erdtree burial. The latter seems to have been Kristoff's decision, as we collect his ashes in the sainted hero's grave. Like so many knights in the capital, the man was a devout follower of the ancient dragon sect, his fascination demonstrable in the lightning incantations he performs. But more than likely, the knight was either too young or not even born when the ancient dragon war took place. How he must have dreamed of fighting alongside the likes of Godwyn against such glorious foes, only to triumph, and then claim their power after extending an olive branch. To be buried alongside those heroes was likely the highest honor for him, so King Morgott acquiesced to his request. That the Omen offered a hero's reward for this achievement in battle demonstrates how highly he still valued peace. For Morgott, the defense of Leyndell needed to be quick and decisive to hopefully stem dissent, doubtless still wanting to salvage the alliance. If the Shardbearers sensed blood in the water, then the king's position as a meditator would become unsustainable. Many more would see violence as a viable solution. The only way to preserve the precarious balance of powers in a peaceful forum was to show that rebellion wouldn't weaken him at all, but be met with harsh punishment. Kristoff gave him that victory, arguably saving the kingdom in Morgott's eyes. But Leyndell's king was just one man with one army. Try as he might, he couldn't stop the ball once it started rolling downhill. War might have gotten a false start, but the alliance proved fragile, and more would invariably scheme ways to topple the Omen King. Soon, the shattering was in full swing. The shattering begins.
Yeah, this is another awkward part is like I have to be vague and evasive on some of this stuff because obviously we're going into the details when it comes to like Godric or Radahn or Rykard even. Like Rykard I think might be the first demigod I would talk about after Morgott here, just because like there's just so much relevant with Rykard that needs to be established before we get into the Godric and Radahn stuff that will come later. Like it's just it's one of those things where it's like, God, like I said, the way that they all intertwine and stuff, it just makes it a little awkward. Anyway, back to it.
The real war began with another assault on Leyndell. Although the sword monument to the first defense of Leyndell is located well outside the capital outskirts, the second defense is commemorated on a cliff overlooking the battlefield viewed in the story trailer. Armies breached the outskirts and laid siege to the inner rampart, leaving lasting damage to this day. From the trailer, the enemy's strategy was to break down and scale the walls while forces put pressure on the main gate, with the obvious intent to capture the city. Runny's narration during the sequence implies this to be the first major conflict of the Shattering, with Shane Haight affirming the battle as a rebellion against Morgott to take Altus. Unlike the first time, the rebels were successful in reaching the city and had dug in with encampments and siege engines. If the royal army deployed units to do more than defend the walls, they were ineffectual. Out of desperation, Morgott apparently mobilized the entire capital. First, he pressed the city's commoners into service, conscripts identified by the wooden boards hung around their necks. The holes are clearly made to resemble pillories, which the pillory shield confirms were used to shackle serious felons in the lands between. But the Erdtree engraved in the commoners' board signals these handstocks as symbolic, putting one on serving as proof that you're a citizen devoted to Erdtree civilization. For that reason, the attire boosts the wearer's faith, and the conscripts similarly wield swords with another Erdtree design to show their fealty. Nonetheless, the elaborately embroidered cloth garb these citizen troops wear comes with a metal collar, as if to remind that their choice was compulsory. Nobles were also expected to contribute, their pages stationed inside the ramparts. Everyone needed to do their part if they didn't want to get slaughtered by pillaging invaders. With the siege reaching the ramparts, the populace doubtless felt their safety in peril for the first time since the ancient Dragon War.
Okay.
The priests were no exception, and the king used that to his advantage, sending his backers to the battlefield too as his commanders. As detailed in the perfumer set's description, the apothecaries traded their aromatic treatments for deadly drugs like poisons, which we see showcased in the story trailer. Amidst the soldiers' march on the inner rampart, metal missiles rain down from behind the walls. Attached to the tail end are the giant incense burners left in Marika's room at the fortified manor as well as in the apothecaries' laboratories. Said laboratories have also moved to inside the walls of the east rampart. The perfumers seem to headquarter themselves in the upper quarter, requisitioning the large home connected to that rampart. There, they supply the pages with ammunition, treat the wounded, and coordinate the city's defense. And going by the green gas falling from the missile braziers in the trailer, this defense included chemical warfare. Looking at the aftermath, the incense causes white flowers to grow where it spilled to the ground, yet this fertilizer was assuredly toxic to people. The poisons they formulated were effective if the mass of skeletons buried in the craters the missiles leave is any indication. But it wasn't enough. In the end, King Morgoth took to the field to defend his capital, only it wasn't as the Grace King. Instead, Morgoth's public persona is Margit the Fell Omen, a name he implicitly earned in this battle piling up the corpses of heroes a mountain high. Shehate likewise would praise how the rebels stood entranced by the horror of Morgoth's fighting outside the walls. What everyone saw that day wasn't a mere omen child, but an omen fiend, the term only denoting a demonic ogre among the supernatural creatures of Japanese mythology, particularly infamous as torturers of hell. Such was the slaughter Morgoth brought as he tore through the rebel ranks. It didn't matter if his opponents were heroes of yesteryear, he killed them all with apparent ease. For the
I do feel like in the future I'd probably cut some of this because I feel like the fiend, because it's the same term used for blood fiends or stuff used for what's her face, Anastasia. You know, she's like described as like essentially a fiendess, right? Like, you know, a female Oni. So there's a I could see this being something where, like, if I was talking about the outer gods, I'd probably talk about like Formless Mother and stuff and blood fiends there separately. But because we're not right now, you know, I feel like it's probably like I have to at least mention it and stuff because of the specific connection with like hell and all that stuff, and you know the specific imagery that Morgoth's name is bringing to mind, especially with all that we're seeing. Is supposed to be, you know, like this is supposed to be the big battle where he's establishing himself as like this fell omen, right? So just making note of that for the future.
Morgoth has become nothing short of a nightmare for anyone with lordly ambitions. Morgoth's success against so many brave and mighty warriors is unsurprising, given his circumstances. With his omen physicality, the king is able to jump from atop a high tower in Stormvale Castle, the ground rumbling with his hard but ultimately safe landing. The only demigod to rival this feat is Radon with the help of magic, making Morgoth one of the more impressive demigods in terms of raw physicality. Add to that his skill and dexterity honed from a life of fighting to survive each and every day, plus his mastery of incantations, and the man was definitely worth his infernal moniker. And just as Oni served the king of hell, Margit was the implicit enforcer of King Morgoth. This made the monarch look impressive, controlling such a powerful omen from beneath Lingdal as his attack dog. This may have been the first the general populace ever learned about the royalty hiding such omen, but their deception was hardly a concern when that lowly corruption was serving grace. Overall, Margit was a military and political win for the Grace King.
What kind of demon is Shabriri again? I mean, Shabriri's never called a demon in universe. It's just that, you know, Shabriri is a reference to an actual demon in Jewish mythology. That's, you know, that's the difference when it comes to that Shabriri. But like, there's never a reference to what Shabriri is other than a man, right? Or male, I guess would be to be technical. Right? So there's nothing ever clarifying, like, you know, if the Shabriri we meet who possesses Yura is an outer god, like an Oni, an Akuma, you know, a Mamono, or whatever, right? Like maybe they referred to him as a Bakemono at some point. Maybe, I don't know. I don't remember if that term is being used a lot in that script, but like, it's generally speaking, like, you know, they're not using specific terminology, I think, for Shabriri, to my recollection. At least not that would one that translates to demon for him. Anyway, back to it.
Still, he didn't make this decision lightly. The way he carefully and gently lays down his crown in the trailer tells us the care and perhaps reluctance behind taking up his cane again and revealing himself to the world. Being king to the Erdtree was perhaps the man's proudest moment, yet he must abandon it and embrace his ugly, omen nature to defend it. Nonetheless, the trailer confirms his resolve, and the reason for it: all the thrones for his alliance lie empty. If any of the shard bearers were in the city to assist him, they weren't forthright with their support. Whatever their involvement with the army banging at the gates, they had no incentive for risking themselves to bail out the king. The way they see it, it was a victory either way. One side will fall, and the other will be critically exhausted, allowing for a third party to swoop in and make a clean sweep afterward. Morgoth the Unloved once again has no one but himself to rely on. And so, he threw all his hopes into Margit for salvation. The king's counterattack appears to be what finally tipped the scales in Lendl's favor. However, while he remains in control of the capital, it wasn't the decisive victory he must have hoped for. The rebellion failed to be crushed, and the war continued, battles spreading across the realm between the various demigod armies. To bolster their forces, all sides started marshalling. Factions began conscripting local townsfolk all across the lands between, each wearing the same uniform. The embroidery might be too fancy for cloth armor outside the royal capital. The set was originally named for royal citizens specifically. Nevertheless, the people of Altus and beyond were being drafted at the passing army's need. For stronger manpower doing more than throw pebbles, trolls existed to tear through defenses or push siege towers like in the story trailer. The armies even took old gladiators out of the catacombs, the madmen among them armed with a barbaric chain-link flail or sledgehammer. Indeed, fighting between kin became so vicious, barbed crossbow bolts saw used to maximize hemorrhaging.
Yeah,
the war definitely seems to have put Morgoth on edge, the Omen King instituting martial law within his city as part of a strict crackdown. Touring Lendl, we find all the residences sealed with what appears to be root resin. We may spy the occasional door or window mist, but these are likely oversights by the developers. The obvious goal of this policy is to keep people out of their homes, forcing everyone drafted to remain on high alert 24/7, and it makes little sense to seal someone's door but not window for just a few homes, or vice versa. So thorough was the apparent royal decree, even the ruined section of the lower quarter has been subjected, leaving nowhere for anyone to hide save the Erdtree Church. The sole exceptions to the king's decree were, of course, his political backers, only one home in the entire cathedral quarter subject to sealing, doubtless a dissident among the priesthood, made into an example. For the rest, they must be constantly at the ready in case of another invasion. Opposition was met swiftly and harshly. The remaining lower town has become the site of a massacre, bodies left to rot in the streets. The weapons stuck in one of the many piles give away that it was the work of the garrison, who operate beneath the main avenue dividing the quarter. And seeing how all their buildings have also been sealed with sap, rotten hollows sitting in despair outside their homes, the wholesale slaughter was probably in reaction to a mass protest against the crackdown. After all, the Nox living in the lower quarter had largely been insulated from the wars of the Erdtree natives under Marika, only suffering briefly during Grandsax's attack even if it irrevocably displaced a huge chunk of their population. This was new to them, and no one wants to be forced out their home to be stripped of civilian life. But Morgoth was not Marika, and he wouldn't tolerate insolence with his precious Erdtree on the line. The town was purged without even the dignity of an Erdtree burial, as we see a few skeletons try to give one body. If nothing else, the king's overzealous order has scared the rest into line. The overwhelming majority of common conscripts are concentrated at Perfumer headquarters, mostly dead. From observation, they appear to have all come in order to receive treatment, but there aren't enough staff on hand to do more than pray or provide blessing. As a result, they die sitting and sometimes standing, racked with migraines and exhaustion from the starvation and sleep deprivation of constant duty. Such lowly troops evidently haven't received priority for rations, like the soldiers and knights still patrolling at full capacity. Things got so bad, some conscripts chose to desert, hiding down in the sewers to evade disciplinary action. It may be certain death either way, but they prefer their chances mucking through trash. Miserable as this tyranny was, Morgoth's actions at least had justification in wartime. While everyone at home was securing Lendl, he could dedicate the rest of his armies to securing the plateau.
Okay.
To this day, the royal forces dominate Altus, soldiers patrolling the highways and dealing with any unauthorized campers off the beaten path. To reinforce the outer rampart's northern gate, defensive encampments have blockaded the road, with a garrison stationed in the old highway lookout tower for spotting new invaders ahead of time. Anyone who dares approach is met with a barrage from trebuchets. The plateau belongs to Lendl, and they have made sure everyone knows it. Anywhere the army has fully secured, we spy illusory war banners towering high into the sky. The tree and ring imagery on these ginormous flags leave no question that they represent the royal capital, marking territory with the help of magic. The banners outside the capital outskirts especially are visible from any of the lowlands, sending a message to every faction. Morgoth is king of the hill, and he dares you to contest. Magical propaganda aside, Morgoth's control over Altus clearly remained unchanged throughout the war, with the defenders keeping at least the east side firmly uncontested. Likely fearing a third defense of Lendl, the Omen's orders were apparently to stave off any threats from the Highland, period. The garrison was deployed, and they have successfully kept the enemy far away from the Erdtree ever since. Although the army is generally hostile, they are still willing to deal with other parties if it is to their material benefit. The latest example are the Starcallers, soldiers overseeing the hobbyists as they excavate the results of a meteor shower east of the southern gate. The gravity stone they mine have obvious applications for military arsenal, and we already see a noble bring the first delivery back to the capital if his corpse beneath the side entrance is any indication. The Lendl forces are thus willing to work with people under select circumstances. Their first priority is just the safety of the capital, and the shattering brought its living rampart out into wider Altus. Meanwhile, priests have mostly retreated to their secret gardens, developing new poisons and other weaponized compounds. The perfumers were probably already taking up their golden shields during the second defense of Lendl, but as they were now expected to command troops in the field, they returned to developing aromatics for the war effort. First and foremost was the uplift aromatic, but as the war dragged on, they soon forgot about their taboos on flame and adopted spark aromatics too. Although some like Trisha have continued to focus on their apothecary work despite this, they are the minority. What the perfumer's ruins leaves available to retrieve at a moment's notice are their recipes for war, the perfumer's talisman left in basement storage since boarded up. Combined with the item's description for the gardens and boosting aromatics, it is clear that the laboratory's original purpose for advancing pharmacy is the farthest from their minds. Now, the clergy are in the business of weapons research and development, finding new ways to kill instead of save. But even with the length of the shattering, Lendl was never again threatened, fighting shifting to other battlefields. The war finally ended with a climactic battle between the two strongest contenders, Radon and Malnia. As confirmed in the map's description, Caelid became the final battlefield where the two dueled, though neither emerged victorious. As a result,
Malnia, oh my god. I thought maybe I did a typo there, but no, that just, God, that sounds so silly when I hear
the conflict
it.
ended on a somewhat muted note. With every faction at a stalemate, entrenched in their respective territory, no demigod was any closer to becoming Elden Lord. Fighting has continued, as we witness in our travels, but nowhere at the scale and momentum of the shattering. The Shardbearers have effectively entered a cold war with each other, and the one least impressed by these developments has been the Greater Will. Both Enya and the introductory narration assert that the Greater Will has long since abandoned the demigods after the conclusion of the Shattering. This appears to be manifest in their great runes. Despite all the demigods retaining their individual claim to the Elden Ring, that physical proof has in almost all cases been deprived of its blessed power, the shard's menu graphic appearing a faded gray. To restore the rune's power, we must return the gold in possession of a 2 fingers atop the divine tower generally closest to the respective demigod. The fingers themselves are long dead and dendrified, but they were evidently tasked with holding onto the golden benediction. This wasn't by the shard bearers in Caleb. We see how Radon's forces have built provisional infrastructure in a blatant attempt to begin exploring the local tower. These places evidently didn't receive much of the demigod's attention. That leaves only the Greater Will to be tasking its envoys with this power. Indeed, the divine towers only open their doors to us after we have defeated the relevant shard bearer and acquired the shard. If this is at the behest of the Greater Will, then it would explain the area's names. Each is more accurately a divine gift tower, with kanji used most notably in the term for the theory of the divine right of kings. This lines up perfectly with the Great Rune's role in determining the Elden Lord. The terminology is just as applicable for the one outlier in Liurnia, which hides Rani's Kerr mark required for the mending rune of death, and whom the god in question gifts us the key to reach. But for the Great Rune to be a gift from God.
Alright, can someone explain to me why it always says Kerr mark? I don't understand this. It's cursed. There's a S. I can understand maybe ignoring the E, but how does the S not factor in? Whatever. No, you continue now.
Places evidently didn't receive much of the demigod's attention. That leaves only the Greater Will to be tasking its envoys with this power. Indeed, the divine towers only open their doors to us after we have defeated the relevant shard bearer and acquired the shard. If this is at the behest of the Greater Will, then it would explain the area's names. Each is more accurately a divine gift tower, with kanji used most notably in the term for the theory of the divine right of kings. This lines up perfectly with the Great Rune's role in determining the Elden Lord. The terminology is just as applicable for the one outlier in Liurnia, which hides Rani's Kerr mark required for the mending rune of death, and whom the god in question gifts us the key to reach. But for the Great Rune to be a gift from God, that deity must instead be the lightless abyss behind the Elden Ring. Therefore, we can ascertain that the transfer of this benediction to the 2 fingers was an expression of the Greater Will's judgment. It is for this reason that the 2 fingers insist that we take the great runes from the demigod's cold, dead fingers. With their kind receiving the benediction, the Greater Will had spoken. To be denied the highest power's blessing, Marika's progeny must truly have been deemed a lost cause. There was no longer an expectation that one with a golden fate in the lands between could mend this broken world and steer it in a new direction. Maybe the demigods still believe that the war is ongoing, just entering a lull before the next big campaign. But the fingers, as the Greater Will's envoys, understood that this shattering was over, and the rest of the lands which follow them seemingly agree. While the demigods might be considered the heroes of that conflict-demanding respect, they are also relics of yesteryear. In the meantime, life in this world remains broken, and the Erd Tree remains on the path to destruction. Legacy of war. With the warring inconclusive, chaos besets the lands between. Once the various factions firmly entrench themselves in their areas, economic activity between regions collapsed during the prolonged turmoil, with banditry soon running rampant. Many towns and settlements have been left to fend for themselves, like we see at Summonwater Village. Amidst the crumbling ruins south of the village and St. Bridge graveyard, several bandit skeletons rise from the ground, facing a similar number of militiamen also rising up. From the random and obscure location, a bunch of villagers probably formed up in order to chase down local robbers hanging out in their area. The militia found the thieves, the 2 side spot, and both left only bodies for their hounds to scavenge, said strays already moving onto new meat crucified further west. It is a dog-eat-dog world, and whatever army still provides security to their region, they are stretched too thin with other matters to be of reliable help. And because so many able-bodied men are being conscripted for war, many communities are helplessly preyed upon.
Loki, that's how it's always been pronounced. No, it's pronounced curse mark, not Kerr mark.
Do not.
Who the hell says Kerr mark? Xavier, you are not gaslighting me on this.
Even in places where there are no villages to victimize, never-do-wells have begun thriving. For example, an ancient golem guards the Einsel River well in eastern Liurnia. Behind the well sits a pond. The blood roses speak to the bloodshed in that body of water, with the sorcerer ball rising up confirming the gory rites before the rune bears intruded upon the area. Someone has been experimenting with forbidden primeval sorcery, but who? Down the well are the numerous corpses from the nameless eternal city piling up on the riverbank. Given how the Nox employ sorcery, the bodies flowing downriver serve as a perfect source for graven masses. And checking the inventory of the merchant secluding himself in the Einsel River, we can purchase the prisoner set. When choosing a prisoner background, we are one of the educated elite of society, a sorcerer dining with aristocrats before being sentenced to a cell for some crime. Hence wearing an iron mask, alluding to a mysterious French convict popularly theorized to have been a blue blood. But why would such a sorcerer be in Einsel? To collect specimens. Most likely, a prisoner condemned for the taboo.
Yeah, this is something I can see. Like, I'm like, oh, wouldn't this be better for like Liurnian Civil War, or maybe even Caria potentially? Caria, I can see being like, no, but I want to talk about specifically the post-war stuff. But I think Liurnian Civil War might be better for this to include this. I don't know. This one feels a bit weird because the other one, it's like, okay, the heretical tower. Like, I don't know where else I would put that stuff. Yeah, it would just be very awkward to talk about like the tower. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I may be able to talk about like some of the background for the tower and the Carian connection. Yeah, the problem is like that's so separated because we're already Liurnian Civil War already talked about the wings with the balloons and stuff. Oh, it's just awkward. It's just awkward.
By Caria has restarted research on the fringes.
Yeah.
Everyone in Liurnia too busy in the current anarchy to track him down. The golem was probably recovered from the ancient civilization's ruins further north, reprogrammed to serve its new master like those golems on Altus Plateau. While the magic giants—
What's gaslighting? Loki, you're joking. I know what you're trying to do. You won't get me. I'm not crazy. I'm not the crazy one here.
safeguarded his supply, the prisoner could freely explore the deep underground, collecting the best specimens for the next experiment. In the end, death came for the convict, the merchant already looting the body for what little he was worth. Still, he demonstrates that more large-scale criminal operations are underway as the rest of the lands between reels from the shattering. Not even the Forbidden Lands are immune to this, as the fire monk slipping from duty showcase. The minor Erd tree dying in the middle of the mountaintops isn't a stump for no reason. The fact that an avatar spawns in suggests that the tree's original guardian was killed by some outside threat. What could have come to do the Erd tree harm? Doubtful the local demi-humans, though they do currently linger nearby. But across the ravine from the tree, there stands the heretical rise. The heretic in question is studying astrology's roots in the primeval current, given how founding Rain of Stars is stored in the sorcerer's office at the top of the tower. The interior has a healthy mix of bookshelves, armillary spheres, and crystal collections for such research, as well as a few landscape paintings showing interest in the surroundings. Most importantly, the tower hides many large golden crystals, the same as Len's rise down in Kaled. That implies the sorcerer was looking into gold's connection to the primeval current as well, and most likely sourced that gold from a minor Erd tree too. In other words, the sorcerer's heresy is desecrating a golden tree in the course of siphoning its power for research. The sorcerer has definitely been careful about his work being discovered. Marionettes guard the tower and surrounding area, their creator apparently deploying them from the safety of inside via balloons. Infiltrating the tower is also extra tricky, requiring we enter from the rear balcony after maneuvering across an invisible bridge spanning the ravine to break the seal. The sorcerer has gone to great lengths to ensure no one sees the tower's secrets, or at least lives to tell the tale. He clearly fears retaliation for heresy, and the only heresy is the pillaged gold. In all likelihood, the person came from Castle Sol, a survivor from the Giant War eventually granted leeway for independent research due to Liurnian relations. The tower seal's academy sigil plus the witch statue suggests that much.
Yeah, I can see myself moving this to Giant War to talk about the idea of Castle Sol people. Yeah, I might do that for Heretical Rise. Yeah. Like, I can still keep some of this, obviously, here for the actual heresy aspect. But I think for a lot of the background connecting to Sol, I think it's better if we include it there. Because astrologers will already be talking about Heretical Rise because of Founding Reign of Stars, at least giving a token mention, so it'll already have like precedent in my work by that point. Yeah, like a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of this that needs moving around and stuff like that. So let's do this. Let's highlight all of this for review. And this, we need to mention that. The landscape thing might be worth keeping. Golden crystals. Da-da. Marionette guards. There we go. The fallout from the Elden Ring. Yeah, do this. And we'll rework to include some of this information here. Yeah, okay. I think all of this here, this needs work and stuff like. I get it, it's a legacy page or whatever. I feel this stuff is too specific and random, especially considering both have to deal with sorcerer towers. Or actually, no, I should just say sorcerers because this one does involve the tower technically, right? It's near one of the towers, but it doesn't technically deal with any of the tower. But it's like it's close enough with the whole sorcery thing that I feel like. And it's Liurnia, especially for this top one. It's like, I feel like that might want to be falling under the Liurnian Civil War. So yeah, I gotta look into that and figure out how I'm gonna handle that. And then Anyway, let's go back to here.
Suffice to say, there are no shortage of ne'er-do-wells looking to take advantage to the fractures in Marika's Erd Tree Empire. Between the warring, raiding, and myriad of other problems, the death toll has risen substantially. The golden runes looted from every rat in the lands between, quick to multiply when properly nourished, even as spirit ashes, are indicative of the sheer number of corpses piled up in every corner. The outbreaks of the frenzied plague across the land may itself be a sign of this explosion of vermin thanks to the shattering. And what do the shard bearers have to show for it? None are any closer to the Elden Ring, making the extended suffering all for naught. True madness. And yet, all sides persist with their intransigent positions, letting the evils of anarchy rule the day. Add in the curse of life running rampant, the two fingers are right to call the world broken. It is no wonder if the Greater will no longer seize them as worthy of rectifying their mother's sin. Leyndell has been stuck in this military lockdown all throughout the war, with no sign of letting up. Most of the conscripts have already perished, and the royal army is beginning to buckle as well. Try as they might to hide from their superiors, a number of soldiers are plainly beginning to slack off. Granted, their superiors are faring much better. Even as one knight lectures troops for taking a break in the shadowy back alleys, another is doing the same on the city block. Two more can be found in the Western District, using the seclusion of the Manor Quarter to seemingly advance their ancient dragon faith, ferreting out scales from Grandsax's petrified underside to fashion into holy seals. In the meantime, strays roam the former horse stables for scraps as their owners raid the fortified Manor's kitchen for a proper cooked meal. Then, in the Eastern Ward, they have priests supporting a slave revolt. The breakdown in command is palpable at all levels of the military hierarchy, and circumstances aren't much better outside the ramparts. Although a fair share keep to their duties as patrols or noble escorts, plenty of troops are similarly taking breaks, whether it be in woods, by roadsides, or on stages. Only in one case are they using this appearance of wool gathering as a lure for ambush. Everyone else is just lowering their guards. Even with the robust defenses at the southern gate, the soldiers have gotten careless enough to leave the door open. And can you blame them? The royal capital hasn't been seriously threatened for quite a while, yet Morgott insists on treating that was as if it is still hot. But there is no imminent invasion, no matter how much fears for his Erdtree consume all of his attention. The result is him and his troops neglecting real problems in the territory, such as collapsing infrastructure like the forest-spanning Great Bridge. There is no military unit looking to discipline Dominula for targeting the Erdtree faithful for their festival, nor has the plague of death in the Woodfalk ruins garnered attention. Domestic affairs simply aren't the king's concern. Maybe nobility could step in to manage the plateau on Morgott's behalf, but they too are being redirected to the war effort. Countless nobles have abandoned their homes after the shattering, searching for power these old or feeble scions otherwise lack. Lendal's elite have gone as far as Dominula's graveyard to informally excavate the land, though this particular party obviously remains far and away from the madness occurring within the actual village. No one is prioritizing the needs of the people, even in the heartland. And when it comes to the upper class, they too have been forsaken. Many do seek to return home through the front gates, only to find no response from the capital. The few wily enough to attempt entering through the side entrance are instead met with the arrows of the ancient golems defending that side. Morgott doesn't care to let anyone back in at this point, not even his most loyal vassals. As always, preserving the Erdtree's base comes first. So distracted has he been by the Cold War, the scars of the second defense of Lendal still remain. Overworked trolls resting in the area demonstrate how little manpower has been dedicated to clean up the area, the missing gate yet to be replaced since it was broken down in the assault, for all the king's fears. Those trebuchet encampments are all he has accomplished. Nobles, in fact, are sabotaging the cleanup effort, digging for power among the scavenging carts. There has been some progress, as opposite end of the battlefield lies a camp, with a coffin carriage used to contain war dead. Although we see a few of Lendal's rank and file using the campsite, they look to simply be finishing the post-battle cleanup of its previous occupants. The jars offered to the minor Erdtree church further indicate that many dead on the south side have been collected. Still, it is years too long by this point. There is no excuse. Even inside the city, piles of bodies are left rotting in the lower quarter, and coffin carriages assumably filled with dead residents remain broken down along the upper quarter's main street. In the end, the king of Lendal has been warped by the same madness as the other shardbearers, paranoia gripping him to his core. For him, the war has never really ended, and so ongoing conflicts with outside threats receive all his attention when this is a time to rebuild, shore up proper defenses, and improve the stability of his holdings. We can't fault his mismanagement on ignorance either. As we pass through his old battleground, Margott ambushes us using the lone conscript stationed there as a vessel. He marked a commoner with magic just to stand there as his eyes and, if necessary, blade in case anyone did breach the walls again, meaning that he knows progress with the cleanup has been slow. But the omen refuses to let his guard down for a second, even if it might benefit his position long term. Legitimate as his initial fears may have been, he now seeks to be the last king of the capital, knowing that he will never be enough to restore his Erdtree and become its true lord.
Yeah, this is another section where I'm feeling like, yeah, this could use more work. I don't like how this is like, I don't know, it just feels kind of muddled and meandering with this Morgott stuff at the end. Like, it needs a little bit more focus on like, the point of his madness here. Like, I feel like some of this I don't think is working very well. Oh well. Let's focus.
In the end, the king of Lendal has been warped by the same madness as the other shardbearers, paranoia gripping him to his core. For him, the war has never really ended, and so ongoing conflicts with outside threats receive all his attention when this is a time to rebuild, shore up proper defenses, and improve the stability of his holdings. We can't fault his mismanagement on ignorance either. As we pass through his old battleground, Margott ambushes us using the lone conscript stationed there as a vessel. He marked a commoner with magic just to stand there as his eyes and, if necessary, blade in case anyone did breach the walls again, meaning that he knows progress with the cleanup has been slow. But the omen refuses to let his guard down for a second, even if it might benefit his position long term. Legitimate as his initial fears may have been, he now seeks to be the last king of the capital, knowing that he will never be enough to restore his Erdtree and become its true lord. Indeed, Morgott isn't ignorant about his great rune's benediction, as the fell twins protecting the eastern divine tower are doubtless a trap he set. The greater will no longer has any hopes for them all and locked the omen's power in the tower. Yet still he clings to his fragment of the ring as the Erdtree's defender, even whilst it is forever dying. All that matters to Morgott is that he keeps it safe from further harm, respecting its decision to reject everyone including him. Never does he consider that he has become the greatest impediment to the Erdtree's rejuvenation, refusing to consider the cardinal sin which enables us to mend the Elden Ring with the tree reborn. Instead, he would rather prevent anyone else from taking the blessing of his rune, radiating the grace of his golden clan. He would keep his beloved Erdtree in a perpetual broken state just so that he may remain its defender, the lord in name only. For all his sanctimony, the lunatic has robbed the world of its future more than any pillager. And in the end, the omen's ironic pretension as the Grace King plays right into Radagon's hands. Of course, Morgott is just one part of a larger fractured whole. Muriel bemoans how the shattering has made man forget the important things in life. As the pastor of Ashley shares, his church of vows has fallen into disrepair, no one caring for unions anymore to visit, let alone provide support. The frayed bonds between family, friends, neighbors, all fighting to survive in their own way, is what the giant turtle identifies as the problem with the current state of things. The anger and sadness from failing to control one's passions serves no purpose in his estimation. But the demigods have failed to realize that, breaking bonds between themselves and everyone. Nonetheless, Muriel's firmest belief is that, whoever does become Elden Lord, he or she will become a king inspired by the church's miracle, bring union to the world once more, and make it so that union is never again annulled. Whether or not this belief proves justified lies in the hands of newcomers.
This is okay. I think it could be better. But yeah, overall, It's a lot. It's a lot to have to kind of like give a general overview of the Shattering, and also by necessity weave in Morgoth stuff in here, especially when Morgoth has like such a huge, like just the stuff with him in the sewer is such a huge aside. And again, there's no better place to put, like I can't put this in Omen Incident. It's like it's too much of it. It's too like it's irrelevant there. It's most relevant here, but it's a big meaty thing. Like I said, I'm not happy with all the sections of the argumentation here. I think it could be stronger, better. I at least should strive to make it so. But yeah, this is a lot longer than I thought it would be. At least like 15 pages. Okay, maybe if I, but like no, this is like over 20. That's bigger than I was expecting when we were going into this. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do here with this. This one's gonna have to go through a lot of redrafting, I feel. Or why do you have to have aura? Damn it. Can't get rid of you easy. And the others aren't easy to get rid of either.
This starving world begs for me. Chew and swallow.
Bane will kill me here, so the only real option I have.
Touch me.
Yeah, this doesn't benefit me.
The tribulations continue.
All right, there we go. Gonna go take my first hot shower of the week. Haven't had warm water since the snowstorm on Monday. Teehee, you do that, Nick. Anyway, guys, so like, it's you guys can hear like I maybe you guys like it better than I do, but I am certainly not happy with this. I think it's pretty eh.
Life's one souls heed my call.
Yeah, just do this.
Carry on my work.
Oh no, I should just. Whatever. I could have just won this, but whatever. It's fine. I have time.
Believe in this god. We are one.
I could have won this. I screwed up.
A miracle.
I just cost myself an easy win.
These wings will take me anywhere.
Time to dig up more corpses. No prayer will change the world.
All right. Okay, edgy McEdgeface.
Chains to ash and boredom to dust. Let's toast 'em. Quit tailing me. Get away.
Yeah.
I can keep this up all day. I'll char everything.
We do this.
Crispy. Quit tailing me. Quit tailing me. What do I believe?
Let's see. There's supposed to be 5 spells. I don't think I've used 5 spells. One. There. 1, 2. Yeah, only 2.
Don't need gods to perform miracles.
I believe in you. I really
Oh, of course you heal.
That was a blast.
Well, I cost myself winning with the bonus. Like winning the game, that's not hard. Is it worth? I'm so close. I'm so close anyway. $10, 12. The problem is if they get to no, because if he die, oh, if they kill him, that's gonna suck. We'll do this. Summon 2 more.
Abhor.
What do I believe?
We'll save it. If he doesn't clear both of them, I win. I think he's going to, but if he doesn't somehow.
I need power.
Complying.
The trials.
Continue.
God, so much healing. I hate Haven.
The trials.
Continue.
Sever.
The connection. Love is unneeded.
Again, I wanted to keep that last evolution point, but I guess we could just do another round.
Abhor.
Wait. Oh, that's right, because I lost.
I believe.
I'm an idiot. I completely forgot about Ward.
Winds of light, shine forth. Cut it out.
Violence. Complying.
You can't win?
Clouds, blow away. What?
Okay, there we go. No, wait, you still can't. Okay, there we go. There we go.
The trials.
Okay. Oh my god. Guys, I missed lethal one time and it cost me the game. Just kill me. Just kill me. Just kill me. I'm so bad. I'm so bad. Anyway, so yeah, I feel like shattering as is. It's definitely it's a vomit draft, all right. It's pretty shitty. I'm not happy with it. I'm not impressed.
Complying.
We could beat this stupid boss battle. I had the victory. I didn't do it like a complete moron. I would rather do the five spell thing than any of these others. Okay, cool. This will work.
Hatred begets salvation.
Whatever you say, lady. Cool, we need more spells, so the more the better.
Good day.
Hello, ma'am?
Don't fall prey to your fears.
Okay, cool. Gilnelise next turn if she put.
You're safe now.
Yeah, this will do. All right, come on, let's do this. Let's make this work.
Someone needs some justice. To the face.
Because this gets no value if I don't do that, right?
You're safe now. I lost. Life's worn souls heed my Don't fall prey to your fears.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's see what he does this turn, because this turn he's probably going to try to clear, right?
Saved. Winds of light, shine forth.
Interesting.
Violence. Complying.
Storm clouds, blow away.
Time to dig up more corpses.
Pretty sure I don't have A1 cosplayed yet. No, or just, yeah, for sure.
Be still.
That's one spell.
You're safe now. Chin up, okay?
Okay. Let's see how this plays. I can't believe I literally had lethal last time and I screwed up.
Someone needs some justice. To the face.
Wasting time. Save.
Our destination, the underworld. Don't fall prey to your fears. It's really heating up now. Oh, deep, how self-centered. I lost.
Next turn we have Rule and I to go straight to face.
No god but our god. No god but our god. A miracle. As you wish. This is the
Time
true
to cross
creed.
over.
Oh, that is so annoying. Annoying because I don't have a 1 cost still.
Our destination, the underworld. Don't fall prey to your fears. Are you having any fun? You're greedy. How self-centered.
Carry on my world.
Well, this will be a feast.
There we go. Wait, what? Oh, because I can still go. No, we don't want to do that.
I seek salvation through schism. Beat it all. We are one and the same.
Yeah, this one, she's gonna run that in there.
We don't need gods to perform
China,
miracles.
miracle! Hey!
Time to cross
Yuck.
over will change the world.
Yuck.
This starving world begs for me.
All right.
Chains to ash and boredom to dust. Let's toast 'em! Quit tailing me!
Carry on my work.
Yeah, this will work. We do this, we get our reanimation.
Show everything to a quick tail in me.
Be free.
Ah, boring. Ah, boring.
So this is the end.
I don't know if I can do it without spending an evolution point, but we'll see.
I need power. Comply.
Oh my god, everything you have! You have healing, you have destruction, you have aura, you have bane, you have storm.
The tribulations continue. This starving world begs for me.
Yeah, I think this is the best play.
Chains to ash and boredom to dust. Let's toast 'em. We can flame 'em good.
You'll never be free.
Quit tailing me.
Yeah. And just, yeah, okay. And these get destroyed. Again, we're not doing within 10 turns. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. Could only have done it before, but not this time. You definitely do the 5 spell thing, though.
This can't be.
Yep. It is. All right, let's try to make sure we get...
Be still. Hey.
1, 2... Oh, I'm missing 2 more.
Bite the tongue.
Kill the heart.
Words are futile. Words die.
Hatred
Touch
abounds.
me.
There we go. We play Rule and I again next turn and we win.
Beat it all.
Sorry, but my teachings are tough.
Go on. I need you to kill stuff. There we go.
The trials.
Can I seek salvation through schism? Beat it all.
Wail.
Just make sure I have space.
In faith. Shat sever.
The connection. Love is on me.
Wail.
Abhor.
There we go.
My time has come.
All right, so I got 5 spells and 1 evolution point.
Cerberus. Of course I won.
Yeah. So the only mission now is win within 10 turns. Yeah, I can do that. I think that'll have to be for later. 'Cause I'm pretty sure.
Leave it to me.
Whatever you say. That's all of them. All right, so that's all the tickets. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see what I get in a temple. Nice. 2 legendary packs. Okay. Cool. I will say Reverend Demon definitely looks...
Sky has fallen through.
Definitely has a vibe to her. What the hell?
Avast, you scurvy bilge rats.
Oh, of course it's a swordcraft guard. Of course. Nice. All right. Okay. I will say Haven's got some cool looking damn cards though. These definitely look some. Ooh. Is that the Haven one too? Yeah. Maybe it's telling me something. Maybe I need to become a Haven main. All right. Oh my fucking... Oh my god. That is an RNG fest, all right. So you basically have a... What is that, like... 18% chance to become... No, it's 1 in 6, so... Yeah, so it'd probably be closer to, like, 15% chance to get... No, I was right. I think I was right the first time. It was closer to 18. Like 17, like point something, I'm pretty sure. To get, Storm. I don't know if you'd want to. I guess aura and barrier. Like aura and storm would probably be the highest value because. Admittedly, though, it does have a it's got very low stats, so God knows. Oh, okay. All right, what's this got? Uh-huh. Neutral, huh? Oh, what is this shit? Oh my, what is this? Oh my god. Activate 2 abilities, and one of them is to basically activate 2 abilities again after giving it +4/+4. That is so stupid. Oh my god, like this thing is such an RNG fest. Like it looks cool, but holy hell is it an RNG fest. Oh my god. Alright, so 2. We have 2 more here, so let's just get this over with. I don't think any of them ended up being legendaries. There you go. There we go. All right. Overall, I'm very happy with those pulls. You don't think I'm going to be spending, though, on these? Yeah, I think I want to save for a future set, because I still don't have my Nip this. Still don't have my Nip. There we go. Starting to fill out the collection, though. There we go. Closer and closer. Thankfully, there's not a lot of cards in each set and stuff like that. So if I just want to get the cards, that's easy enough to do. What's this? Oh. Oh, we actually do get more. I forgot about these. What's day 3? Win 5 matches, draw cards, open a park chest. Oh, we can do that. And then release them all. Okay. Let's spend these now because I'm obviously greedy. Let's get them all now. Yeah, there's a legendary one of these. All right. Ooh. God, I'm really loving the art style for this one. Oh. Yeah, I figured that was Rune. I like how Navy Cat, like you have all this like eldritch horror stuff, and then you got like frickin' like the cat on a boat. Cat girl on a boat. There we go. Okay. All right, so with that out of the way. Not a lot though. Yeah, like this is a bronze card, right? So surprising. Anyway, that's it now. I've done what I came here to do. Yep. Oh wait, what's this? Oh, feats and stuff. Okay, stuff I don't care about. It's like, yeah, I get more emblems and stuff for characters I don't care. Yeah. So yeah, just save, I guess, until next set and stuff like that. And in the meantime, I have to worry about how we're going to handle all this more God stuff and more for the Shattering. But people really want to see Shattering now that Night of the Black Knives out of the way, which I was surprised. I did not expect the Night of the Black Knives to, like, you know, all the votes for that would then transfer over to either the Shatter. I guess it makes some sense because, you know, like Night of the Black Knives and the Shattering is caused by it. So maybe you're curious about what the aftermath would be, right? But then a lot went to astrologers too, so it's like, I don't know what's up with that, but oh well, that's for me to wonder about in the future when they're all out and out.